back. We had such plans to have our service outside on our gorgeous Schiffer family terrace, and I'm feeling like there's two things you can depend on in Georgia, and that's taxes and rain on Friday night when it comes time for Shabbat. It just keeps on raining. It's beautiful all day, and then it rains. We're good? Okay. So now we are welcoming our friends who are online. You can see if you're in the house and you look up and you see these sleek cameras up here in front of you and behind you. That's our online friends. So welcome everybody. We're glad you're here. The on the Facebook page, the service is going to be pinned. You can follow along. In-house, we're going to be using this Mishkan Tefillah. If you reach underneath your chair, you'll find it. We'll call out the page numbers for Mishkan Tefillah as we go. For those who are online, we're not going to call out the pages for the online service. You just follow along in chronological order. Let's take a moment. If you're online, give a shout out. Tell us who you are and where you're coming from and say Shabbat Shalom. And if you're here, first of all, thank you. Right? Member-supported, future-driven Temple Emanu-El. Take a second and turn to the people behind you and in front of you and just say Shabbat Shalom and welcome the folks who, you haven't seen in a while or you don't know or you haven't seen at all. For those of us who don't know each other yet, Cantor Lorna Desnick, I'm Rabbi Spike Anderson. We are so glad to see you. So as we move into our time, I'm going to ask us to have our feet on the floor. In a moment, we're going to take some deep breaths. So just find yourself comfortable on the floor. We're going to take 3 deep breaths together, and in doing that, we're going to do it in a second, we're coming from out there to in here. So an intentional space. Okay, intentional space and intentional time. So deep breath in together. And let it out. And that breath is for love of physically being here, this physical presence. Deep breath in, feeling the love for the Jews all around the world, bringing in Shabbat as we are. And one more deep breath in. And with that, our love for the divine, being able to give it and to receive it. Okay, so our candle lighting can be found on 120. I'm going to ask you to rise. Cantor, you want to come in?
Oh, sure.
The honors? Okay.
Alrighty. Oop. So, we bring in all this amazing love and light and warmth of Shabbat. We join together in our bracha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat.
So tonight, as the full moon rises, we Jews will begin the Jewish Day of Love, in Hebrew called Tu B'Av, the 15th day of the month of Av. In temple times, Talmud tells us this was the most joyous day. All of the single daughters of Israel would wear white and dance together in the vineyards, laughing and singing to the young men just out of sight, "Come, young man, consider carefully who might be your wife." This was a time to discover one's besheret, one's soulmate, and with such hope, nurture blessings for our future. Tonight, through Shabbat, we'll celebrate love. Love of the Sabbath, love of family, of soulmate, of newborn child, and of the divine. Our next prayer, Shalom Aleichem, reminds us of our love of sacred time, with the proverbial angels seeing our connections, joining us, and then departing in peace. Come on up and light candles if you like. Shalom Aleichem can be found on page 142.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Kulech Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu. Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech, Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh, Baruch Hu.
Please be seated. There's a midrash on the Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden story. A midrash is a story within the story that I really love. The midrash goes something like this. Years, many decades after Adam and Eve had been cast out of the Garden of Eden, they ended up east of Nod. And at some point, God says to them, after many, many decades, Adam and Eve, at this point, I think it's okay, if you want to return to the Garden of Eden. And Adam and Eve say, God, it's been a long time. Can you remind us of what it was like in the Garden of Eden? What was it like there? And God says to them, well, there was no pain. There was no angst. There was no suffering. There was no memory. There was no trial. There was no challenge. Everything was easy. Adam and Eve said to each other, does that sound good? God will remember everything that we've had together over the last 50 years. God says, no, when you return, you won't remember what's happened since you left the garden. Only joy and ease. Eve looked at her husband, Adam, who at one point was a strapling young man. Now he was stooped and worn from hard work and age. Adam looked at Eve, his wife of 50 years, face wrinkled, her hands worn from hard work. They looked at each other and to God and said, if we can't have our memories together, no thank you. And off they walk away from the Garden of Eden into the sunset. L'chadodi, our prayer of besheret, our prayer of love the Jewish people have for Shabbat, signified by the groom and the bride seeing each other, is on page 138.
L'chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi, l'chadodi L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litehila. We sing together. L'chadodi, L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nei lecha, Ki mikor ha'beracha, V'rosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. L'chadodi, L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. Hitoreri, Ki va'orei, Kumi ori, Uri, Shir daveri, Kevod Adonai alayich, Niklat Ketkos. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela.
We rise and face the door.
Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, Toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela. L'chadodi likrat kala, B'nei Shabbat nikavela.
There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless. Baruch 146.
Oh
setting, we bring in Ma'ariv, Aravim with Roll in the Dark.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei Yom, Borei.
Here we go.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Shema, page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam
Please be seated. This week's Torah portion is Ve'et Hanan in the book of Deuteronomy. Some good stuff that happens in this Torah portion. Amongst other things, the Shema, which we just said, and the V'ahavta, which we're going to see in a moment, that's where it appears in this part of Deuteronomy. The V'ahavta, the first part of it, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, it's a command form. You shall love Adonai your God. And the rabbis right away ask a question, as they are apt to. How can you command an emotion? Love. How can you command love? Any emotion, but love may be a particularly hard one. How do you command love, period? And then how do you command love of God? Meaning, what does that mean? How might that express itself? How might that be realized? If we look at the rest of the V'ahavta, perhaps, say, a group of rabbis, the V'ahavta itself gives us a hint. So the V'ahavta is a prayer that reminds us that there are reminders of what? That there's a certain way of conducting ourselves. We have sort of our status quo, our default position, but that we always have a higher place that we could be. We have an aspirational self as individuals and as a community. So what are these reminders of the higher self? These selves that we could experience and we're instructed to experience when we're at home, and we're at work, and when we're sitting still, and when we're on the way. The reminders that are listed are ones like, well, the main one, of course, is the mezuzah, right? The mezuzah. So the mezuzah is at eye level on your home, and inside that mezuzah is this prayer, right? It's the Shema and the V'ahavta, this part from Vet Hanan in Deuteronomy. The mezuzah is a reminder that the most holy place in Judaism is not the synagogue, and it's not the state of Israel, and it's not on a random mountaintop here or there, that according to us, since the fall of the temple in 70 AD, the most sacred place in Judaism is the home. The home. So what does this have to do with love? Many of us have multiple personas, right? Or ways that we might conduct ourselves. We have the out-of-the-house way we might conduct ourselves, just to provide some dichotomy, and the inside-the-house way we conduct ourselves. Now, how we treat strangers or folks in our workplace professionally usually is at a fairly high standard. And what perhaps the V'ahavta and the mezuzah and this commandment to love is supposed to do is remind us that actually when we go into the home and we see this mezuzah, we're actually entering the place where we should be our best self, not our default position of not best self. The way this sometimes manifests is that we take the people who live in our homes for granted and maybe don't speak to them or treat them even with the same level of respect that we might someone in our office or even on the street. Now, hopefully not, but days get long and you get tired, and there's triggers and baggage. So what that mezuzah does is it says to us, hey, Jews, you are entering the most sacred space, and the people who are inside these walls are the most important people to you. How do you love God? By treating people, especially the people living closest to you, with love, with respect, an active emotion, one that is as much giving as it is taking, one of generosity and understanding. So say a group of rabbis. That's perhaps how we might fulfill this commandment to love God with all our heart, all our soul. Start with self, our immediate space, and the people around us. The mezuzah is a reminder. It's a reminder. It's hard to do things without a reminder. This is one at eye level that we can always see. Why isn't the mezuzah straight up? Why isn't it this way, horizontal and vertical? Why is it actually at an angle? And the Talmud says to us, because it's supposed to remind us that in that home, compromise is key. Compromise. Love, respect. Friends, V'ahavta can be found on page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני
אדוני אלוהיכם.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. And you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in your heart, shall be in your heart. children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and when you rise up, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house, and upon your gates, and upon your gates, that you may remember and do all of my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God.
If you join me on page 159, together, sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles and earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of a
God's
land
miracle.
once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Page 158.
Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, lie, lie. We'll do that one more time. Here we go. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Here comes the clap like this. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Yeah, lie, lie, lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נעדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושי פלא, נורא תהילות עושי פלא. מלכותך ראו לעיניך, חוקי הים לבני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, זה אלי אנו ואמרו, we sing together. Adonai Elo Leolam Vaed. Adonai Elo Leolam Vaed. Yai lai lai, here we go. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 yai lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai.
One of my favorite MLK speeches is the one called Loving Your Enemies, the sermon called Loving Your Enemies. Dr. King addresses, he says, the Greek language, as I've said so often before, is very powerful at this point. It comes to our aid beautifully in giving us the real meaning and depth of the whole philosophy of love. And I think it's quite apropos at this point, for you see the Greek language has 3 words for love, interestingly enough. It talks about love as eros. That's one word for love. Eros is a sort of aesthetic love. Plato talks about it a great deal in his dialogues. A sort of yearning of the soul for the realm of the gods. And it's come to us to be a sort of romantic love, though it's a beautiful love. Everybody has experienced eros in all of its beauty. when you find some individual that's attractive to you and that you pour out all of your soul into and your love into as an individual. That is eros, you see. And it's a powerful, beautiful love that is given to us through all the beauty of literature. We read about it. Then the Greek language talks about philia, and that's another type of love. That's also beautiful. It's a sort of intimate affection between personal friends. And this is the type of love that you have for those persons you're friendly with, your intimate friends, or people that you call on the telephone, or you go out to have dinner with, your roommate in college, that type of thing. It's a sort of reciprocal love. On this level, you like a person because that person likes you. You love on this level because you are loved. You love on this level because there's something about the person you love that is likable to you. This too is a beautiful love. You can communicate with a person. You have certain things in common. You like to do things together. This is philia. The Greek language comes out with another word for love. It's the word agape. And agape is more than eros. Agape is more than philia. Agape is something of the understanding, creative, redemptive will for all men. It's a love that seeks nothing in return. It's an overflowing love. It's what theologians would call the love of God working in the lives of men. And when you rise to love on this level, you begin to love people, not because they're likable, but because God loves them all. You look at every person and you love them because you know that God loves them. And that person might be the worst person you've ever seen. Hashkivenu can be found on page 160.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. We're going to try that again. Oh my goodness. I got some dust in there. Let there be love and keep on going.
And understanding among us. You're in trouble. Let peace and friendship be our
Shelter from life's storms. Let's try.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Hashkivenu.
Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom.
V'ha'amidenu, shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu, sukat shlomecha. Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Page 163, if you'll join me at the bottom. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night. Eternity utters a day. Shamru 162.
V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat, l'dorotam, berit olam, berit olam. B'nei u'ben b'nei Yisrael, oti oti le'olam. B'nei u'ben b'nei Yisrael, oti oti le'olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, u'vayom hashvi'i Shabbat, Shabbat, ma'in afash. B'nei u'ben b'nei Yisrael, oti oti le'olam. B'nei u'ben b'nei Yisrael, oti oti le'olam. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat, l'dorotam, berit olam, berit olam.
Page 165, if you'll join me. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. We rise for the Amidah, page 164.
Ufi Agid, Ufi Agid, Tehilatecha. Adonai, Ananana Satai Tiftach, Ananana Ufi Agid, Ufi Agid, Tehilatecha. Ananana Adonai, Ananana Satai Tiftach, Ananana Ufi Agid, Ufi Agid Tehilatecha.
Page 166.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Nomel Chasadim Tovim v'Koneh Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevii Geula Livnei Bneihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol atah Rav le'Hoshia, Morid hatah, Mechalkel Chaim bechesed, Mechayei HaKol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim ve'rofeh cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umidol melach, Melech memit, Umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol, Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kadoshim b'chol yom yehallelujah selah, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
We continue silently until you feel like your prayer is done, either with the words of your prayer book or the words of your hearts.
A blessing. A blessing of love for lavender, my angel face, my soul. Indescribable. You are a whole world created unto your own. You are radiance. You, our golden light, your sweetness, your soul emanates your joy. You are joy. It pours from your whole being like silk water. Everything you are is infinite possibility, a sacred miracle, a blessing. Everything you are is infinite gift, infinite love, sustaining love, nourishing even more than the purest well on earth. I find myself inextricably tied to you. Do you feel that too? Wondrous Spirit, our souls are truly connected through generations. My history, now your history. My breath is your breath. My sustenance, yours. You are the dream fulfilled after years of heartbreaking and heart aching. Your luscious healing fills my soul. The piece of me that lies within you is the most delicious love, a blessing of protection and wisdom, a prayer for emet ve'emunah, that truth and faith builds your foundation. Be'ahava, may you always feel our loving arms embrace. V'ruach, may you always feel God's Spirit whisper at your back. And know that our love is your Sukkot Shalom, your shelter of peace. And know that you have been very loved, so very loved, since time's inception. This is the prayer, the blessing, the heart, the house, the shelter we build for you in love. Will you build me a house that really will be mine? Then let me give you my design, a simple scheme of the house I dream of. Build my house of wood, build my house of stone, build my house of brick and mortar. Make the ceiling strong, strong against the storm, shelter when the days grow shorter. But build my house of love and build my house with trusting and warm it with the warmth of your heart.
Cantor, that was a beautiful poem you wrote for your daughter. Really, really beautiful. Robert Wittenstein, co-president, come on up.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Just a couple of quick things. First of all, we invite you after the services to join us right out front for Oneg outside. Hope you'll stay and visit with people you might not have seen for a little bit. This coming Sunday, our Temple Emanu-El Brotherhood softball team has a double header at Zabin at 11:30 and at 12:30. So you can come out to Zabin ball fields and watch your colleagues as we strive against other synagogues in the area. Hopefully this week you got a mailing from us about High Holiday Services. I'll just briefly describe that we're going to have 4 ways for you to participate in services this year. The sanctuary will have about half the usual number of seats. We will have an early service on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur morning for vaccinated-only congregants, and you'll need to bring your card. Our second service of the morning will be at the amphitheater at Brook Run. It'll be outdoors. It'll be led by Rabbis Max and Rachel Miller, and it will be family-friendly. The third service of the morning will be back here in the sanctuary and will be for any congregants who didn't go to the other 2. And then your fourth option will be that the services that are done here in the sanctuary will all be streamed online. So we hope we have covered the bases as best we can, and we look forward to everyone participating. I will point out this year, because of the limited size of each service, you'll need to tell us which service you're coming to, because we're going to cap each one with the number of seats. So you'll sign up online for which service you want to come to, and you'll get colored tickets in the mail that correspond to those services. So pay attention, and please don't make me call you. At any rate, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks, Robert. And if anybody's any trouble figuring out which service to go to or how to do it, just call the office and we'll be glad to help you out, okay? All right, friends, we have our time to share simchas. So this is part of what it means to be part of a sacred community, both here and online, and this amalgamation, the Shiluv together. So as is the tradition here, if you have something that you would like to share with the congregation, something good that has happened, that is happening, it's about to happen, we will ask for it in a second. If you are a bar and bat mitzvah student and online for credit, it's like these public service announcements, this is where you tell us who you are and what you are grateful for this Shabbat. And if you're online, you can also just tell us what you're grateful for and what simchas that you have, so you can share that way. Anybody have a simcha they want to share? Something that is happening. Okay, I see some folks over on my stage left. There we go. Robert's coming with a microphone. Phoenicians are right there.
I've just completed my first week of retirement.
Hey!
Mazel tov.
Careful, the last person to announce their retirement like this, we made him president.
That's true.
Careful.
Robin and I are proud to announce that we have our first grandson,
Mazel
born July 13th, Banks Weller Underwood.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Elijah is the Hebrew name.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Yes. Yes, okay. Good, good. Others? We got some right up here.
Yes, Earl and I are very excited to have our London family joining us for 3
London.
weeks.
Okay.
Yep, it's been a long 2 years
Wow.
since we've seen
I'm
each
sure
other.
it has been.
So we feel really blessed. Thank you.
Okay, guys, welcome to this side of the pond. We're really glad you're here. Others? Cantor, something to share?
Oh, gee, I don't know. While I was away, I had a baby.
Yes, that's good.
And her favorite thing to do right now is smile. So every day, that is the simcha for us.
And for me, all three of our kids are at camp for another week or so, so Marita and I, my love, and I get to spend some good quality time together, which I really, really love. So friends, as we do when we Jews are in the midst of sacred time, we say the Shehachianu prayer, which you'll find at 648. This is the prayer where we literally thank God for this moment in time, that we're here, that we're breathing, that we're together, with the ask that this type of sacredness, this type of time, happen again and again and again. Please join us. Shehachianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu hazman hazeh. Amen.
The Misha Berach prayer, which you'll find on page 371, is our prayer of healing. And this is as we approach the last lap of our service. The prayer of healing, where we ask for a refuah shlema, a complete recovery for those who are vulnerable and in need amongst us. The congregation asks for a refuah shlema for Ina Sletsky, Jerry Penn, Sandy Geller, Brett Samsky, Arlene Marcus, Andy Rush, Marilyn Cohen, Mayor Ben Rachmeo Vadina, Yetta Bat Yosef Miriam, Tara Cutler, Howard Ackerman, Ken Schiffer, William Friedman, Lisa Solonik, Helen Rye, Jan Misner, Ashish Sharma, Ludmila Coven, Brian Fiddleman, Mike Alpas, Marcia Stevenson, Elizabeth Strauss, Louis Cates, David Fine, Hannah Hazen, Rick Rosenfeld, Jewel Gerchis, and Vlad Fishbein. If you have a name that you would like to add, that you would like to say Misha Berach for, somebody in your life in need of a healing, somebody who you love, somebody who you like, it could be you, I would ask that you say that name either out loud or in your hearts when my eyes meet yours. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the Minhag HaMakom is that we rise, and if you are comfortable putting around your arm around the person who you came in with, go ahead and do that now. Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Laimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed no ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Lavortenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, a renewal of body, a renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Refuah Shlema. Please remain standing. Kiddush can be found on page 123. If you are at home and you have your special Kiddush cup, please fill it up with fruit of the vine, grape juice or wine, and together we bless this day.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכהנים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim lebracha, to life with blessings. Okay, Elenu can be found on page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה יוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. In a moment we will say Kaddish Tom, the mourner's Kaddish, which you'll find on page 598. And the mourner's Kaddish is one where we think very specifically and deliberately about somebody who, well, if it's at the appropriate time, someone who was very much in our lives, a nuclear relation, a parent, a sibling, God forbid, a child. And the mourner's Kaddish is designed so that when we say their name with the proper intention, that they have what's called an aliyat hanefesh, an ascent of soul, because of what we are doing. Whether that happens on a metaphysical level or it's a way of just flooding ourselves with the wonderful memories that we have, I'm not sure. The congregation thinks of the folks who are in Shloshim, the families of Jill Shaliff and Julius Simon. Yard sites in the congregation for Ann Axe, Herbert Backman, Frida Berger, Esther Brill, Scott Burleson, Pat Cantarella, Selma Cohen, B. Cohen, Rose Finfer, Emma Firestone, Sonia Friedman, Carl Goldberg, Lloyd Goldman, Frank Greenberger, Morris Hoffman, Abner Israel, Alberto Israel, Maurice Janowski, Lawrence Kaplan, Lawrence Kessler, Max Comet, Sol Lehrer, Lillian Levy, Ann Levy, Lillian Leibowitz, Dora Lifshitz, Hilda Livingston, Charles Mendel, Edith Moschel, Vivian Fenici, Sadie Pressman, Robert Rona, Selma Rosenthal, Robert Roth, Miriam Schoenman, Max Scholwolf, Marvin Silverman, Norman Toplinski, Sally Walker, Sophia Saul Weiss, Manny Zisser. If you are in the Shloshim period of mourning, the first 30 days after a loved one's passing, I invite you now to rise. Please remain standing If you're in the first year of mourning a loved one's passing, we invite you to rise. Please remain standing. If you are commemorating the yard site, the death anniversary of a loved one's passing this Shabbat, we ask you to rise. And if it is your custom to rise in solidarity, or for those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, we ask you to rise. Friends, I would ask you to picture the person whom you are saying Kaddish for. Close your eyes if that's helpful. See them in your mind's eye, healthy and hale. See them turn towards you. Your eyes meet. And together, with overflowing love, you smile. Yit Gadal, Vayit Kadash, Me Rabbah, Be'alma Divrach Hirute, Ve'amlich Malchute, B'chayechon Yomechon, Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Pagalav Yizman Kariv Vimru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olamei Almayam. Yit Barach V'yishtabach V'yit Pa'ar V'yit Roman V'yit Naseh. Vita dar vita la vita la shme dukutsha berichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush berchata v'nechamata damiram be'alma v'imru amen yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen Oseh shalom b'imru mav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you for being here.